Don't forget to subscribe. Afterwards, the wisest and most spiritual books from the greatest authors await you every day. And now buckle up, sit back and we'll begin. As the portal world of books, present to you a translation from a man who has been engaged in spiritual search all his life and in the field of various religions. He has already written several dozens of books that have received international recognition. So it's his translation that we consider the most useful for spiritual development. Also at the end of the book there are small comments if you want to understand the content of this book more deeply. So sit back as we begin the most useful and wise book ever written by man on behalf of God himself. Bhagavad Gita with commentaries at the end. Edition and commentaries by Vladimir Antonov, corrector of an English translation Keenan Murphy. Conversation 13, Field and Knower of the Field. Arjuna said, about Prakriti and Purusha, as well as about field and knower of the field, about wisdom and about everything that is necessary to know, I would like to hear from you, O Keshava. Lord Krishna said, this body, O Kunteya, is called field. The one who knows it is called by sages knower of the field. Know me as the knower of the field in all fields. True knowledge about the field and the knower of the field is what I call wisdom, O Bharata. What is this field, and what is its nature, how it changes, and where it is from, also who is he, and what is his power? All this I am going to tell you in brief. All this was sung by sages in various hymns and in the words of Brahmasutra full of reason. Knowing the great elements, the individual I, the mind, the unmanifest, the 11 Indriyas, and the 5 pastures of the Indriyas, humility, honesty, kindness, all forgiveness, simplicity, serving the teacher, purity, steadfastness, self-control, dispassion towards earthly objects, absence of egoism, understanding the essence of suffering and the evil of new births, of old age and of sickness, absence of worldly attachments, freedom from enslavement by children, wife, and home, being ever in the state of peace among desired or undesired events, steadfast and pure love for me, wholehearted intent to abandon vain relations with people, being self-sufficient, constancy in spiritual search, striving to gain the true wisdom. All this is acknowledged as true, everything else is ignorance. I will reveal to you what has to be known, and, having been known, brings one to immortality. This is Supreme Brahman, who has no origin, and is beyond the limits of existence and non-existence of beings. His hands, feet, eyes, heads, mouths are everywhere, omniscient, he abides in the world, embracing everything. He has no organs of perception, yet he perceives everything, having no attachments to anything, yet sustaining all beings, free from the 3 gunas and using the gunas, inside and outside all beings, staying in calm and yet acting, elusive in his subtlety, being always near, and yet at the unspeakable distance, such as imperishable he, not divided among beings, and yet existing separately in everyone. He is cognized as the helper of all. He embraces all beings with himself and guides them in their development. About him, about the light of all lights, it is said that he is beyond the darkness. He is wisdom, the purpose of every wisdom, cognized by wisdom, residing in the hearts of all. Such are the field, the wisdom, and the object of wisdom, in brief. Having known them, my devoted disciple cognizes my essence. Know that both Purusha and Prakriti have no origin. Know also that advancement in the gunas happens thanks to one's existence in Prakriti. Prakriti is considered as the source giving origin to causes and effects, and Purusha is the cause of experiencing pleasant and unpleasant. Being in Prakriti, embodied Purusha necessarily merges with the gunas that originate on Prakriti. An attachment to a certain guna is the cause of incarnation of Purusha in good or bad conditions. Observing, supporting, all receiving, the highest ruler, also the divine Atman. This is how one calls the Supreme Spirit in this body. They who have cognized thus Purusha, Prakriti, and the 3 gunas in whatever conditions they live, they are not subject to new births anymore. Some, meditating in the Atman, cognize the Atman from within the Atman. Others cognize the Atman through Sankhya Yoga. Others yet go to this through Karma Yoga. Even those who are unaware about this, but having heard from others, worship sincerely, they too become free from the way of death through partaking of what they have heard. O best of the Bharatas, know that all existing moving and non-moving originates from interaction between the field and the knower of the field, the one who sees the Supreme Lord non-perishing in the perishing, and equally present in all beings. The seeing of such one is true. The one who really sees Ishvara equally present everywhere, such one cannot stray from the true path. The one who sees that all actions are realized only in Prakriti, and that the Atman remains in calm, such one truly sees. Comprehending that the multifarious existence of beings is rooted in one and originates from him, such a person attains Brahman. The eternal and unbound by Prakriti divine Atman, though residing in bodies, does not act and cannot be influenced, O Kunteya, as the omnipresent void does not intermix with anything because of its subtlety, so the Atman residing in bodies intermixes with nothing. But as the sun illuminates the earth, even so the ruler of the field illuminates the entire field, O Bharata. The one who sees with the eyes of wisdom this difference between the field and the knower of the field, and knows the process of liberating the Indriyas from Prakriti, such one approaches the supreme aim. Thus in the Upanishads of the blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 13th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, entitled Field and Knower of the Field. Conversation 14. Liberation from the three gunas. Lord Krishna said, "Now I am going to impart to you that highest knowledge, after gaining which all sages attain the highest perfection. The one who has taken refuge in this wisdom and attained my nature does not get born again in a new cycle of the development of the universe and does not perish at the end of the current cycle. For me the womb is great Brahman. Into him I introduce the semen, and this results in birth of all beings, O Bharata. In whatever wombs mortals are born, O Kunteya, Brahman is their supreme womb, and I am the father who procreates them. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are gunas originating due to interaction with Prakriti. They firmly bind to the body the immortal indweller of it, O mighty armed. Of these gunas, Sattva, thanks to its unstained purity, light and healthy, attaches by the attraction to happiness, and by the bonds of relationships with people alike to oneself, and by the bonds of knowledge about unimportant things in life, O sinless one. Know that Rajas, a field of passions, is the source of the attachment to the earthly life and the thirst for it. This binds, O Kunteya, the indweller of the body by the attraction to action. Tamas, born of ignorance, deludes the indwellers of bodies, binding them by negligence, carelessness, and laziness, O sinless one. Sattva attaches to bliss, Rajas attaches to actions, Tamas, verily, destroys wisdom and attaches to carelessness. Sometimes the Sattva guna overcomes Rajas and Tamas. When Rajas prevails, then Sattva and Tamas are defeated. Sometimes Tamas dominates, defeating Rajas and Sattva. When the light of wisdom shines from every pore of the body, then one can know that in this person Sattva grows. Greed, anxiety, urge to act, restlessness, worldly desires, all these qualities arise from the growth of Rajas. Dullness, laziness, carelessness, and delusion, all these are born when Tamas grows. The one in whom Sattva prevails at the time of death enters the pure worlds of men of higher knowledge. The one in whom Rajas prevails will be born then among those attached to action, in the world of matter. The one who dies in the state of Tamas will be born again among the ignorant. The fruit of righteous action is harmonious and pure. Verily, the fruit of passion is suffering. The fruit of ignorance is wandering in darkness. Sattva gives birth to wisdom, Rajas to greed. Carelessness and insanity originate from Tamas. Those living in Sattva progress spiritually. Rajasic ones remain on the middle level. Tamasic ones, possessing the worst qualities, degrade. When one sees the three gunas as the only reason of activity and cognizes the transcendent to the gunas, then such one comes into my essence. When the soul dwelling in the body becomes free from the three gunas related to the world of matter, then it becomes free from births, deaths, old age, suffering, and partakes of immortality. Arjuna said, "How can one recognize those who have become free from the gunas, O Lord? What is their behavior, and how does one become free from the three gunas?" Lord Krishna said, "O Pandava, the one who is not afraid of joy, activity, and errors, and yet does not long for them when they pass away, who is not shaken by manifestations of the gunas, and saying, gunas act, stays aloof, uninvolved, steady in situations of happiness and sorrow, self-confident, to whom a clod, a stone, and gold are equal, immutable amidst a pleasant and unpleasant, amidst praise and blame, same in honor and dishonor, equal towards a friend and a foe, striving not for prosperity in the material world, such one is free from the three gunas. The one who serves me with steadfast love, having freed oneself from the three gunas, such one deserves to become Brahman. And Brahman, imperishable and immortal, is based on me. I am the basis of the eternal Dharma and the abode of the ultimate happiness." Thus in the Upanishads of the blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 14th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, entitled, Liberation from the Three Gunas. Conversation 15. Cognition of the Supreme Spirit. Lord Krishna said, "They say that there is the immortal tree Ashvatha with its roots growing upward and the crown located beneath. Its leaves are words of thanksgiving and love. The one who knows it is an expert in the Vedas. Its branches extend up and down. They are nourished by the three gunas. They end at the objects of Indriyas. Its roots are the fetters of karma in the human world. Looking from within the world of matter, one can comprehend neither its form, nor its purpose or destination, nor even its foundation. And only when this firmly rooted tree is cut down by the mighty sword of liberation from attachments, then a road from which there is no return opens up. There one has to merge with the primordial spirit, who gave origin to everything. Without pride and delusion, having conquered the evil, understanding the nature of the eternal, having curbed the sexual passion, free from the pair of opposite known as rejoicing and suffering, such men confidently walk the reliable path. Neither the sun, nor the moon, nor fire shine there. Having entered this place, one never returns. It is my supreme abode. A part of me becomes a soul in the world of incarnate beings and stretches in the material nature its Indriyas, among which the Indriyas of the mind are the sixth. The soul receives a body, and when it leaves the body, Ishvara takes it and carries it away, as the wind carries away the fragrance of flowers. By hearing, eyesight, touch, taste, smell, as well as by the mind, the soul perceives from within the body the objects of senses. The ignorant do not see the soul when it comes, leaves, or stays enjoying, being captivated by the gunas. But those who have the eyes of wisdom see it. Rightly aspiring yogis cognize not only the soul, but also the Atman in themselves. But the unwise do not find the Atman. Know that the splendor of the sun illuminating the space, of the moon, or of fire, the splendor originates from me. Having penetrated inside the soil, I sustain all beings in it by my life-giving power. I nourish all plants by becoming the heavenly soma for them. As the fire of life, I reside in the bodies of animals, and mingling with the incoming and outgoing energies, I transform in their bodies the four kinds of food. I reside in the hearts of all. From me originates knowledge, remembering, and forgetting. I am that which has to be known in the Vedas. I am, verily, the possessor of the all-encompassing knowledge. I am also the creator of the Vedanta. There are two kinds of Purusha in the world, impeccable and disposed to make errors. Disposed to errors are all creatures, but the highest Purusha is said to be impeccable. Superior to them both, there is the supreme Purusha called the divine Atman. He, pervading everything with himself, sustaining the three worlds, is the great Ishvara. This is so because I am transcendent to the perishable, and even to the imperishable. I am identified in the world, and in the Vedas as the Supreme Spirit, the one who without delusion, knows me as the Supreme Spirit, who has cognized everything worships me with the entire being. So, I have expounded to you these innermost teachings, O sinless one. They who know them and possess developed consciousnesses become most successful in their efforts, O Bharata. Thus in the Upanishads of the blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 15th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, entitled Cognition of the Supreme Spirit. Conversation 16. Discrimination of the divine and demonic. Fearlessness, purity of life, diligence in the yoga of wisdom, generosity, self-possession, sacrificial deeds, studying the holy scriptures, spiritual efforts, simplicity, non-harming, honesty, non-irascibility, detachment, peacefulness, ingenuousness, compassion for living beings, absence of greed, gentleness, modesty, absence of fickleness, courage, all forgiveness, vigor, frankness, absence of envy and pride. The one of divine nature possesses these qualities. Dishonesty, haughtiness, pride, irascibility, also coarseness and ignorance are the features of the one of demonic qualities. Divine qualities bring one to the liberation, demonic ones to slavery. Do not grieve, you were born for divine lot, O Pandava. Beings in this world manifest themselves in two ways, as divine and as demonic. The divine has been already expounded to you. Now hear from me, O Partha, about the demonic manifestations. Demonic people know neither true power, nor abstinence, nor purity, nor even scrupulosity. There is no truth in them. They say, there is neither truth in the world, nor meaning, nor Ishvara. It came into being not for the great purpose, but merely as a result of sexual passion. People of such views, abnegating the Atman, of the undeveloped consciousness, become the vildores and destroyers of the perishable world, yielding to insatiable worldly desires that lead one to destruction, haughty and arrogant, attached to the transient, confident that there is nothing more to it than that, indulging in unending baneful reasoning, aiming only at satisfaction of their cravings. They think there is only this, bound by hundreds of fetters of anticipation, yielding to lust and anger. They accumulate wealth by unjust means, for the sake of sensual enjoyments. Today I achieved this, and that purpose I will achieve tomorrow. This wealth is already mine, and that will be mine in the future. I have killed this foe, and will kill others. I am the Lord. I am enjoying. I have attained perfection, power, happiness. I am wealthy and noble. Who can compare to me? I will make offerings, will give alms, will enjoy. This is how the ignorant get deluded, lost in many thoughts, entangled in the net of lies, yielded to satisfaction of their worldly passions. They go to hell of the wicked. Self-conceited, obstinate, full of pride, and intoxicated with wealth, they perform hypocritical sacrifices in disregard of the spirit of the scriptures, indulging in egoism, violence, arrogance, lust, and anger. They hate me in other bodies. I always cast such haters, full of evil and cruelty, into adverse, demonic conditions in their next births. Appearing in these demonic conditions, enshrouded by ignorance life after life, aspiring not to me, they go to the very bottom of hell. Threefold are the gates to hell where man perishes: lust, anger, and greed. Therefore one has to renounce these three. The one who has freed oneself from these three gates of the darkness makes one's own good, O Kunteya, and attains the supreme aim. But those abnegating the holy scriptures and yielding to their whims attain neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme aim. Therefore let the holy scriptures be for you the instructions of what to do and what not to do. Having come to know the precepts of the holy scriptures, you have to bring your actions in this world in accordance with them. Thus in the Upanishads of the blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 16th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, entitled, Discrimination of the Divine and Demonic. Conversation 17. Threefold Division of Faith. Arjuna said, "What is the state of those who are endowed with faith, but disregard the precepts of the Holy Scriptures? Are they in the state of sattva, rajas, or tamas?" Lord Krishna said, "The faith of incarnate ones can be of three kinds, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Hear about all three. A person's faith corresponds to this person's essence, and the person corresponds to his or her faith. What your faith is, so you are. Sattvic people worship the divine, rajasic people worship beings of demonic nature, tamasic people worship lower spirits and the dead. Know that they who perform severe ascetic exploits non-prescribed by the Holy Scriptures for the sake of self-admiration and pride, yet are subjected to sexual passions, attachments, and violence, unwise, torturing the elements that compose their bodies as well as me residing in their bodies, know that their decisions are demonic. Even so the food pleasant to all can be of three kinds, also sacrifice, ascetic exploits, and gifts. Hear from me about the difference between them. Food that promotes longevity, strength, health, fecundity, and serenity of mood, which is succulent, oily, substantial, and tasty. Such food is dear to the sattvic. Passionate ones hunger for bitter, sour, salty, too spicy, exciting, dry, and burning food, i.e. the food that causes sorrow, suffering, sickness. Spoiled, tasteless, with bad smell, putrid, cooked of garbage, unclean food is dear to the tamasic. Sacrifice performed without any thought about reward, in accordance with the Holy Scriptures, with firm belief that it is a duty. Such sacrifice is sattvic. Sacrifice performed with the expectation of reward, and for the sake of pleasing oneself. Know that such sacrifice originates from rajas. Sacrifice that contradicts the religious precepts, performed without feeding the hungry, without sacred words, without charity, without faith. Such sacrifice is called tamasic. Homage paid to the divine, to Brahmins, to teachers, and to sages, purity, simplicity, abstention, non-harming the body, such is the asceticism of the body. Speech causing no dislike, honest, pleasant, and beneficial, also chanting the holy texts, such is the asceticism of the speech. Clarity of thoughts, lowliness of the mind, control over thoughts, amicability towards everyone, naturalness of life, such is the asceticism of the mind. This threefold asceticism, if performed by steady people endowed with deep faith and without any the expectation of reward, is considered sattvic. Asceticism performed for the sake of praise, honor, and glory, as well as asceticism performed with pride, is rajasic in its nature, unsteady, not firm. Asceticism performed under delusion, with self-torture, or with the purpose of destroying someone is tamasic in its nature. The gift, which is given without any thought about reward, with the feeling of doing this as a duty, at the right time and in the right place to a worthy person, such a gift is considered sattvic. That which is given with the expectation of repayment or reward, or with grudging such a gift, is called rajasic. A gift given in an inappropriate place, at inappropriate time, to unworthy people, with disrespect or disregard, such a gift is tamasic. Tat, Sat is a threefold designation of Brahman in the Vedas. In old time, it was used in performance of sacrifices. Therefore, knowers of Brahman begin sacrificial acts and acts of self-restraint with the word Om, as it is prescribed by the Holy Scriptures. When those seeking the liberation perform various donations and purifying acts of self-restraint, or give sattvic gifts, then it is performed with the word Tat. The word Sat is used for designating the true reality and good, as well as righteous acts, O Partha. The word Sat is also always uttered in sacrificing, self-restraint, and charity, and the actions aimed at these purposes are also designated by the word Sat. And that which is performed without faith, whether it is sacrifice, exploit, or giving is a sat, that is nothing both here and after death. Thus in the Upanishads of the blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 17th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, entitled Threefold Division of Faith. Conversation 18. Liberation through Renunciation. Arjuna said, I want to know, O powerful one, about the essence of the renunciatory way of life and about renunciation. Lord Krishna said, the abandonment of activity rooted in personal desires is called by sages renunciatory life. One's activity aimed not at the personal profit is called renunciation. Action must be abandoned as evil, say some religious thinkers. Sacrificial acts, charity, and acts of self-restraint must not be abandoned, say others. Hear my judgments about renunciation, O Bharata. Renunciation can be of three kinds, O tiger among men. Sacrificial acts, charity, and acts of self-restraint must not be abandoned but be performed. They purify the reasonable one. Yet, these actions must be performed without any attachment to the activity itself, without any expectation of reward, O Partha. Verily, one should not renounce the prescribed actions. Such renunciation originating from delusion is considered tamasic. The one who renounces actions out of fear of physical suffering, saying, it hurts, performing thus the rajasic renunciation, such one does not receive the fruits of the renunciation. The one who performs the necessary action saying, it must be done, renouncing, at the same time, the attachment to the action, and to personal gain, such one, O Arjuna, performs sattvic renunciation. The one who is detached, imbued with harmony and purity, reasonable, devoid of doubt, such one does not detest unpleasant action, and is not attached to pleasant action. Verily, an embodied person cannot renounce actions completely. Only the one who renounces the personal profit renounces truly, good, bad, and intermediate. Such can be the fruit of action for the non-detached. But for a sannyasi there are no fruits. Learn from me, O mighty armed, the 5 causes that give the origin to any action, as they are described in Sankhya, circumstances, the person himself or herself, other beings, various energy fields, and the divine will. 5 in total. Whatever action one performs by the body, word, or thought, be it righteous or unrighteous, the causes of the action are these 5. Therefore, the unwise one who sees oneself as the only reason of the action is deluded, but the one who has abandoned such egocentrism, who is free as a consciousness, even when fighting in this world, such one does not kill, and does not bind oneself by this. The process of cognition, the object of cognition, and the one who cognizes these are the 3 causes that give an impulse to the action. The impulse, the action, and the doer are the 3 constituents of the action. In terms of the gunas, the knowledge, the action, and the doer are also considered to be of 3 different kinds. Hear about this from me. The knowledge that sees one indestructible being in all beings, undivided in the separate, know that such knowledge is sattvic. The knowledge which considers numerous diverse beings as separate, know that such knowledge originates from rajas. The knowledge based on the tendency to cling to one separate thing as to the whole, knowledge unreasonable, narrow, not grasping the real, such knowledge is called tamasic. A due action performed passionlessly, without any desire of reward, and without any attachment to it is called sattvic. An action performed under the pressure of the desire of carrying it out, with self-admiration, or with great effort, such action is called rajasic. An action undertaken in delusion, without consideration of possible negative consequences, for the sake of destruction, harm, or a coarse action is called tamasic. Unattached to action, devoid of self-admiration, endowed with confidence and determination, same in success and failure, such a doer is called sattvic. Excited, desirous for the fruits of actions, greedy, envious, admiring oneself, dishonest, subjected to rejoice and sorrow, such a doer is called rajasic. arrogant, coarse, angry, obstinate, sly, negligent, insidious, dull, sluggish, somber, cowardly. Such a doer is called tamasic. Threefold, according to the three gunas, is also the distinction of the level of consciousness's development and aspiration. Hear about this, O Dhananjaya, the one who discerns what deserves attention and what does not, what ought to be done, and what ought not to be, what ought to be beware of, and what ought not to be, what is slavery, and what is freedom. The one who can differentiate this is a developed consciousness and lives in sattva. The one who does not distinguish the right path from the wrong one, what ought to be done from what ought not to be done, such one as a consciousness is undeveloped and lives in rajas. The one who lives in ignorance, who takes the wrong path for the right one, and goes in the wrong direction, such one as a consciousness is tamasic. O Partha, an unswerving aspiration that allows one to control the mind, energy, and indriyas and to be in the state of yoga, such an aspiration is sattvic. But if one directs the aspiration at the true path, also at the sexual passion, and at the profit of work, O Arjuna, then such an aspiration due to the attachment and selfishness is called rajasic. An aspiration that does not help to free the unwise one from laziness, fear, sorrow, gloominess, such an aspiration is tamasic, O Partha. And now hear about the threefold nature of joy, O best of the Bharatas, about that which brings happiness and allays suffering. The joy, which at first is like poison and then turns into nectar, is considered sattvic and originating from blissful cognition of the Atman by the consciousness. The joy originating from contacts of the indriyas with earthly objects, which at first is like nectar and then turns into poison, such joy is called rajasic. The joy that is delusive from the beginning to end, originating from rejection of the Atman, against a background of carelessness and laziness, such joy is tamasic. There is no being, either here on the earth or among gods, which is free from the three gunas born in the world of Prakriti. The duties of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distributed in accordance with their nature among the gunas, O conqueror of enemies. Clarity, self-control, self-restraint, honesty, all forgiveness, simplicity, wisdom, use of one's own knowledge for the good of others, knowledge about the divine, such is the duty of a Brahmin, born by his or her own nature. Valor, grandeur, firmness, agility, inability to flee from the battle, generosity, the nature of a ruler, such is the duty of a Kshatriya, born by his or her own nature. Tillage, cattle rearing, trade are the duties of a Vaishya, born by his or her own nature. Everything related with the service is the duty of a Shudra, born by his or her own nature. One goes to perfection by performing one's own duty with diligence. Hear how one can come to perfection by diligently performing the duty. By performing the duty and worshipping through this the one by whose will all beings come into existence, and who pervades everything, man attains perfection. It is better to perform one's own duties, even if they are insignificant, than the duties of others, even if they are grand. By performing duties that follow from one's nature, one does not commit sin. The preordained destiny, even if it contains that which is unpleasant, must not be abandoned. Verily, all risky undertakings are wrapped in errors as fire is wrapped in smoke, O Kunteya. The one who has a consciousness is free and omnipresent, who has cognized the Atman, who has no worldly desires, such one attains through the path of renunciation the highest perfection, and the freedom from the fetters of destiny. How the one who has attained perfection comes to Brahman, to the highest state of wisdom. Hear from me in brief, O Kunteya. The one who has completely purified oneself as a consciousness, who has overcome oneself by steadfastness, who has detached from all the outer, and cast off passion and enmity, who lives in solitude, who is abstinent, and has subdued one's speech, body, and mind, who is constantly in meditation and is passionless, devoid of egoism, violence, arrogance, sexual passion, anger, and greed, and who is imbued with peace and selflessness, such one deserves to become Brahman. Having achieved the eternity and mergence with Brahman, one attains the highest love for me. By love such one cognizes me in my essence, who I am, and what I am in reality. Having cognized me thus in my innermost essence, one submerges into my beingness, though being engaged in activity, ordained for him or her, but worshipping me, one attains with my help the eternal imperishable abode, renouncing in thoughts all selfishness in action, having merged the consciousness with me, being aware about me, as of your refuge, think about me constantly. Thinking about me, you will overcome all obstacles with my help. But if out of pride you decide not to live like this, then you will lose everything. If, immersed into egoism, you say, I don't want to fight, such a decision will be vain, for Prakriti will coerce you. O Kunteya, bound by your own karma, which is created by your own nature, you will do against your will what you, in delusion, do not want to do. Ishvara resides in the hearts of all beings, O Arjuna, and by the power of his Maya he makes all beings revolve, as if on a potter's machine. Seek refuge in him with all your being. By his grace you will attain the supreme peace, the imperishable abode. Thus I have revealed to you the wisdom more secret than the secret itself. Reflect on it thoroughly, and then do as you wish. Hear again from me my highest and innermost word. You are loved by me, and therefore receive this boon from me. Think always about me, love me, sacrifice yourself for my sake, seek refuge only in me, and you will come to me. You are dear to me, and I trust you. Having abandoned all other paths, go only to me for salvation. Do not grieve, I will free you from all your fetters. Never tell about this to the one who is not disposed to exploits, and is not endowed with love. Also, do not tell those who do not want to hear, or who slander me, but the one who reveals this highest truth to those loving me, realizing, thus, devotional love for me. Such one will undoubtedly come to me, and there will be no one among men performing more valuable service than such one does. And there will be no one on the earth dearer to me. The one who will study this holy conversation of ours will learn to worship me by the sacrifice of wisdom. Such is my thought. The one endowed with faith who will just listen to this conversation with homage will be ridding oneself of evil and will attain the pure worlds of the virtuous. Have you listened to all this with undistracted attention? Has your delusion born of ignorance been destroyed, O Partha? Arjuna said, my delusion is dispelled. By your grace I have gained this knowledge. I am firm, my doubts have gone away. I will do as you said. Sanjaya said, thrilled, I was hearing this wonderful conversation between Vasudeva and generous Partha. By the grace of Vyasa, I heard about this secret and highest yoga from the Lord of Yoga Ishvara himself, speaking before my eyes, O Raja. Recalling this holy dialogue of Keshava and Arjuna, I am thrilled again and again. Recalling this most wonderful form of Krishna, I rejoice again and again. Wherever there is Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, wherever there is warrior Partha, their well-being, victory, and happiness are assured. This is my opinion. Thus in the Upanishads of the blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 18th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, entitled, Liberation Through Renunciation. Thus ends the Bhagavad Gita. Commentary to the Bhagavad Gita. The teachings of Krishna can be subdivided into three components: ontological, ethical, psychoenergetical. The latter is related to man's development within Raja Yoga and Buddha Yoga. It corresponds to the three components of man's spiritual development: intellectual, ethical, and psychoenergetical. Let us consider each of them separately. Ontological aspect of Krishna's teachings. From the ontological point of view, the Bhagavad Gita gives complete and clear answers to the main questions of philosophy. 1. What is God? 2. What is man? 3. What is the meaning of human life, and how we should live on the earth? The Bhagavad Gita considers God in the following aspects: Ishvara, creator, absolute, Brahman, and avatar. In other languages, Ishvara is called the Heavenly Father, God the Father, Jehovah, Allah, Tao, primordial consciousness. Ancient Slavs called him Svarog. Ishvara is also the highest teacher and the purpose of every one of us. The second aspect of the word God is the absolute or everything, that is the creator existing as one with his multidimensional creation. The evolution of the absolute goes on in cycles, which are called manvantaras. A manvantara consists of a kalpa, day of Brahman, and a pralaya, night of Brahman. Each kalpa begins with the creation of the world and ends with the end of the world. The meaning of such cyclic recurrence consists in creation of new conditions for continuation of the universal evolution of consciousness, the evolution of the absolute. The third aspect of God is Brahman, who is also called the Holy Spirit. This is a collective name for all divine individualities who come out from the abode of the Creator, primarily with the purpose of helping embodied people. There is one more manifestation of God on the earth: Avatar, Messiah, Christ. Man got incarnated in a human body and merged by the consciousness with the Creator. An avatar from the divine level helps people to find a way to the Creator. Krishna, who presented us with the Bhagavad Gita, Jesus Christ, Babaji, Sathya Sai Baba, and many others in the history of our planet are examples of avatars. Man is not a body. The body is just a temporary material container of man. Man is a consciousness, soul, a self-aware energy. The size of the lump of the consciousness of different people may differ significantly, from tiny rudimentary to cosmic sizes. It depends on two factors: the psychogenetic age, the age of the soul, and the intensity of efforts made on the spiritual path. Krishna said the following about the correspondence between man and man's body, 2:18. Only the body of an embodied soul is perishable, but the soul itself is eternal and indestructible, 2:22. As one throws off worn-out clothes and puts on others that are new, so a soul throws off worn-out bodies and enters new ones. Man represents the last stage of the evolutionary development of incarnate Purusha, plants, animals, man, God. Man's task is to strive to achieve the divine perfection. On this path, man goes through certain steps. One of the schemes of advancement through these stages is the description of the evolution in terms of gunas. That is, there are 3 gunas: 1. Tamas, darkness, ignorance, stupidity, coarseness; 2. Rajas, passionateness, intensive search for one's place in life, fight for one's ideals and so on; 3. Sattva, purity, harmony. Nevertheless, Krishna said that one has to go even higher than sattva to mergence with God, and this requires new efforts, new struggles with oneself. We have to keep this in mind, since sattva may turn out to be a trap. It captivates us with its bliss peculiar to this stage. It relaxes us, tempts us to abandon further efforts. It ensures paradise for us, but we have to go further. To become Brahman, having cognized the nirvana in Brahman, and then to become Ishvara, we have to do much. However, it is impossible to bypass the sattva guna. It is impossible to merge with God without mastering the qualities inherent to this guna. It is also impossible to bypass the rajas guna, for it is in this guna that man masters such qualities as energy, self-discipline, power. Another scheme of man's evolutionary advancement mentioned by Krishna is the scale of varnas. Let me stress that this and many other scales are mutually complementary. A complex use of them in application to oneself or to others gives a more complete picture. According to the scale of varnas, man on the first stage is called Shudra. People of this stage are too young in their psychogenesis and are not capable of doing much. Their task is to learn from others who are evolutionarily more mature by helping them in their work. The second stage is represented by Vaishyas. These include merchants, craftsmen, farmers, etc. Being in this varna implies having a developed intellect for starting creative business activity, because to run a business one needs a developed intellect. It is through such activity that the representatives of this varna develop themselves. The next varna is represented by Kshatriyas. These are people who have ascended still higher in their intellectual development, in being energetic. These are leaders possessing sufficient broadness of the mind and personal power, the power of the consciousness. By the way, one can start preparing oneself for this stage of spiritual development starting at a young age by developing the personal power and energy. Helpful in this work are physical labor, active varieties of sport, dances to rhythmic music. If one does this without coarse emotional states, remembering about God and about the necessity to observe the ethical norms in front of him, then this can form a good potential for future spiritual development at a mature age. At a mature age, it will be necessary to renounce both competitiveness and passionateness. On the contrary, one has to come then to calm, harmony, tenderness, wisdom. But this should be based on the foundation of large personal power, the energetical might of the consciousness and intellect. The highest Varna consists of Brahmins, that is spiritual leaders. It became historically established in India to hand down the Varna membership by inheritance. Therefore, it is quite obvious that not all people who assign themselves to the highest Varna have high spiritual achievements. But let us come back to the problem of self-development. Let me cite words of Krishna about how to choose the adequate methods of work on oneself, that is, those which are in accordance with the real stages of psychogenesis and ontogenesis. Fix your thoughts on me, submerge yourself as a consciousness into me verily, then you will live in me. But if you are not able to fix your thoughts steadily on me, try to reach me by practicing yoga. If you are not capable of doing constantly yoga exercises, then dedicate yourself to serving me, performing only those actions which are needful to me, then you will achieve perfection. If you are not able of doing even this, then seek mergence with me. By renouncing the personal profit of your activity, restrain yourself in this way. The activity which is dedicated to serving the evolution and devoid of egoistic, selfish components, spiritual service, in other words, is karma yoga. Let me also note what great importance Krishna attached to the intellectual development of people on the spiritual path. This is especially important due to the fact that there are some sects denying the importance of intellectual development up to opposing the traditional education of children. But Krishna exalted wisdom. Superior to all outer sacrifices is the sacrifice of wisdom. All actions become perfect when they are performed by the wise. Therefore gain wisdom through devotion, inquiry, and service. As fire turns firewood into ashes, so does the fire of wisdom burns all false actions to ashes. There is no purifier better than wisdom in this world. With its help, the one skilled in yoga attains enlightenment in the Atman in due course. The one full of faith gains wisdom. The one controlling the Indriyas gains it too. Having achieved wisdom, they quickly attain the higher worlds. There are 4 types of righteous men worshipping me. Desiring to free themselves from suffering, aspiring to knowledge, seeking personal achievements, and the wise. It follows from the last words of Krishna that, first, any active person who is not of demonic nature, not indulging in coarse vices, is regarded by Krishna as righteous. Second, the representatives of the first 3 mentioned groups are not wise yet. The wise are an independent group of a higher level. Those striving to become free from suffering, those thirsting for knowledge, and those striving for personal achievements at the stage of rajas, they are not wise yet. Superior to others are the wise, even-minded and devoted to me completely. Verily I am dear to the wise, and they are dear to me. Studying the Vedas, performing sacrifice, ascetic exploits, and good deeds give proper fruits. But yogis possessing the true knowledge are superior to all these, they attain the supreme abode. So who can be called the wise? Those who have a wide breadth of knowledge on the main subjects, about God, about man, about man's path to God. This is the basis, the foundation of wisdom. But it is not wisdom yet. This is just possession of much knowledge, erudition. Wisdom implies an additional capability of operating the knowledge, the ability to create intellectually. How can we develop this quality in ourselves? The first and easiest way is to study in the usual educational institutions, schools, universities, etc. Additionally, we can contribute to the development of this quality by mastering as many skills and professions as possible, by communicating with people, with God, and in many other ways. It is essential to master this stage of grihastha, householder, in full. It is through service to other people, through caring about them first within one's own family, and then within the family of spiritual disciples, that wisdom can be gained. And the Creator does not let foolish people into Himself, He does not need them. Ethical aspect of Krishna's teachings. Ethics consists of three components. 1. Man's attitude towards people, all other living beings, and towards the entire environment. 2. Attitude towards God. 3. Attitude towards one's own path to the perfection. Let me cite Krishna's statements on each of these three parts of the ethical teachings. On attitude towards people, other living beings, and the environment. Krishna suggests regarding everything existing in the universe as a manifestation of God in the aspect of the Absolute. Love for God in this aspect implies our love for the creation. As for His integral part, I am the taste of water, O Kunteya. I am the shining of the moon, and the light of the sun, and pranava, and universal knowledge, and the cosmic voice, and humanity in people. I am the pure scent of earth and the warmth of fire. I am the life of all the living, and exploits of spiritual warriors. I am the consciousness of all who develop the consciousness. I am the splendor of all the beautiful. I am the strength of the strong who is devoid of attachments and sexual passions. I am the sexual power in all beings that does not contradict Dharma. Know that Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas originate from me, but understand that they are in me, not I am in them. The one who does not injure people is dear to me. Compassion for living beings, the one of divine nature possesses this quality. Speech causing no dislike, pleasant, such is the asceticism of the speech. Amicability towards everyone, such is the asceticism of the mind. The one who has developed oneself as a consciousness and advanced spiritually is well disposed both to friends and to foes, to neutrals, to strangers, to the envious, to relatives, to the pious, and to the vicious. On attitude towards the Creator. Only love can contemplate me in my innermost essence and merge with me, steadfast and pure love for me. This is acknowledged as true. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice or offer, whichever feat you perform it as an offering to me, seeking unity with me, resolutely cognizing the Atman, having devoted the mind and consciousness to me, such a loving me disciple is dear to me. All for whom I am the supreme aim are dear to me above all. On attitude towards one's own path to perfection. God suggests that we regard our lives as the opportunity to approach perfection by making efforts on transformation of ourselves, as well as through active creative love service to God, which is manifested as our service to people. These are corresponding statements of Krishna, fighting coarse negative emotions and worldly cravings. The one who is not hostile to any living being, who is friendly and compassionate, even-minded among joy and sorrow, all-forgiving, ever content, such a loving me disciple is dear to me. The one who does not injure people, who is free from anxiety, elation, anger, and fear, such one is dear to me. The one who neither hates nor grieves is dear to me. The one who here, on the earth, before liberation from the body, can resist the power of worldly attractions and anger, such one achieves harmony and becomes a happy person. Threefold are the gates to hell where man perishes: lust, anger, and greed. Therefore, one has to renounce these three. The one who has freed oneself from these three gates of the darkness makes one's own good and attains the supreme aim. Excited, desirous for fruits of actions, greedy, envious, admiring oneself, dishonest, subjected to rejoice and sorrow, such a doer is called rajasic. Arrogant, coarse, angry, obstinate, samar, such a doer is called tamasic. By the way, sexuality as well as all other qualities of man can be differentiated according to the gunas. That is, the sexuality peculiar to the representatives of a certain guna has the nature of this guna. This knowledge may become the ground for self-analysis and self-improvement, and for understanding other people better. Only the sattvic sexuality is worthy of encouragement. In the Bhagavad Gita, much is said about sattvic qualities. They are harmoniousness, calmness of the mind, subtlety of the consciousness, the ability to control one's own emotions with refusal of coarse emotional manifestations, prevalence of the state of subtle and joyous love, absence of egocentrism and violence. From the methodological standpoint, it is important that sattvic qualities can be developed only if the body is healthy and cleansed from coarse energies. To become sattvic, one needs, among other things, to exclude completely meat and fish from one's diet. Sattvic qualities can be steadfast only in those who have passed fully the stage of kshatrism, have developed vigor, personal power, high intellect, and have gained deep knowledge about the most important in life. Fighting false attachments. The one who does not fall in love with people is dear to me. Free from worldly attachments, such a person is dear to me. Dispassion towards earthly objects, absence of worldly attachments, all this is acknowledged as true. But if one comes back in the mind to the earthly objects, then inevitably an attachment to them arises. This attachment leads to the desire to possess these objects, and the impossibility to satisfy this desire produces anger. Generosity, absence of greed. The one of divine nature possesses these qualities. The one who, as a consciousness, is free and omnipresent, who has cognized the Atman, who has no worldly desires, such one attains through the path of renunciation the highest perfection, and the freedom from the fetters of the destiny. Fighting egoism, egocentrism, and ambitiousness, which are manifestations of the lower self. The one who is, without worldly attachments and egoism, even-minded among joy and sorrow, all-forgiving, who requires nothing from others, is dear to me. Humility, simplicity, absence of egoism, all this is acknowledged as true. Haughtiness, pride are the features of the one of demonic qualities, equal towards a friend and towards a foe, the same towards glorification and disgrace, in warmth and in cold, among joy and sorrow, free from worldly attachments, regarding equally praise and blame, laconic, content with everything that happens, not attached to home, determined in decisions, full of love. Such a person is dear to me. The problem of fighting false attachments, egoism, and egocentrism can be solved radically by forming the right spiritual orientation, wholehearted aspiration to the Creator, mastering the control over the indriyas, and direct elimination of the lower self and naradhi through the meditation total reciprocity. If this meditation is performed in the Holy Spirit, it results in the state of nirvana in Brahman. Performed in the eon of the Creator, it results in mergence with the Creator. Work with the Indriyas is a component of the psychoenergetical work on self-development. It is feasible only for those who have mastered, on the stage of Raja Yoga, the methods of moving the consciousness from one chakra to another, developed all three danshanas, and then on the stage of Buddhi Yoga, brought to the perfect state both bubbles of perception. Cultivating positive qualities in oneself. Determined in decisions, full of love, such a person is dear to me. The contact with matter produces feelings of heat and cold, of pleasure and pain. These feelings are transient, they come and go. Endure them with fortitude. The one who is unmoved by them, who remains sober and unfaltering in joy and in trouble, such one is able to attain immortality. Superior to all outer sacrifices is the sacrifice of wisdom. All actions become perfect when they are performed by the wise. Therefore, gain wisdom through devotion, inquiry, and service. Sages and clairvoyants, who perceive the essence of things, will impart this to you. There is no purifier better than wisdom in this world. Through it, the one skilled in yoga attains enlightenment in the Atman. The one full of faith gains wisdom. The one controlling the Indriyas gains it too. Having achieved wisdom, they quickly attain the higher worlds. Only love can behold me thus. Only love can contemplate me in my innermost essence and merge with me. Serving God. The one who serves me with steadfast love, having freed oneself from the three gunas, such one deserves to become Brahman. The nirvana in Brahman is attained by those rishis who dedicate themselves to the good of all. Psychoenergetical aspect of development. The psychoenergetical direction of yoga, as Krishna expounded it, includes the following stages: 1. Preparation of the body. 2. Preparatory exercises for the energy structures of the body. 3. Cognition of the Atman through A. Bringing in order the emotional sphere with the development of the spiritual heart in the first place. B. Refusal of false attachments. C. Formation of right aspiration and following it. D. Control of the activity of the indriyas. E. Meditative practice aimed at the refinement of the consciousnesses, mastering the ability of moving the consciousness, growth of the personal power. F. Practical cognition of the multidimensional structure of the Absolute and cognition of Brahman. G. Further strengthening of the consciousness, its quantitative growth. 4. Cognition of Ishvara and merging with him. 5. Merging with the Absolute. Preparation of the body. Krishna did not leave specific methods for realization of this task, but gave general directions. Know that they who perform severe ascetic exploits, for the sake of self-admiration and pride, unwise, torturing the elements that compose their bodies, know that their decisions are demonic. Purity, abstention, non-harming, such is the asceticism of the body. Verily, yoga is not for those who eat too much, or do not eat at all, not for those who sleep too long, or wake too long. Yoga dispels all suffering in those who have become moderate in eating, resting, working, also in sleeping and waking. Food that promotes longevity, strength, health, fecundity, and serenity of mood, which is succulent, oily, substantial and tasty. Such food is dear to the sattvic. Preparatory exercises for the energy structures of the body. It is impossible to start working with the Atman straight off. This work should be preceded by preliminary trainings. About this preparatory stage, Krishna said briefly, "If you are not able to fix your thoughts steadily on me, try to reach me by practicing yoga." This concerns the use of the methods of Raja Yoga, which are described in detail in Conquering of the Mind. In the Bhagavad Gita the following is said about this. Arjuna said, "For such yoga, which is attained through inner balance, I do not see a firm ground in myself because of the restlessness of the mind. For the mind is truly restless, it is turbulent, obstinate, hard to restrain. I think it is as difficult to curb it as to curb the wind." Lord Krishna said, "No doubt, the mind is restless, and it is hard to curb. Yet, one can put it under control by constant practice and dispassionateness. Yoga is hard to attain for those who have not cognized the Atman. But the one who has cognized the Atman is on the right way to yoga. This is my opinion." In the esoteric practice, the problem of controlling the mind is easily solved with the help of the methods of Raja Yoga and then of Buddha Yoga. For this purpose, one has to learn to move the consciousness into the Anahata chakra. This helps to destroy the mental dominance and to make the mind quiet. At that, the mind's indriyas detach from everything worldly. Later on, at the stage of Buddha Yoga, the problem of controlling the mind is solved even more radically when one masters moving separately the developed structures of the upper and lower bubbles of perception in the subtle worlds far outside the body. It does not mean, of course, that such meditators lose to some degree their intellectual ability. Being not in meditation, they continue to reason about the earthly aspects of life not less but more adequately. During meditations, their intellects are not switched off. In meditation, the intellect switches completely from the earthly to the heavenly, to the divine. Higher stages of the solution of this problem become available with the help of special meditative techniques in full mergence of the consciousness with Brahman, and then with Ishvara. The intellect of the meditator in this case is united with the intellect of God. and some degraded sects, they use inadequate methods in attempt to control the mind. For example, long seclusions by themselves, i.e., without special esoteric techniques, make no sense. Those who resort to such seclusions only waste their time. Equally ineffectual for this purpose is the use of psychedelics, which have in addition harmful effects on physical and psychical health. The only right way of mastering the control over the mind is to use the methods of Raja Yoga and Buddha Yoga in a completely adequate and clear state of the consciousness. Description of the Atman and how to cognize it. The main essence of embodied beings is the Atman. The one who has cognized the Atman attains full peace, because such one takes refuge in the divine consciousness, when being in cold or heat, in situations of joy or grief, honor or dishonor. Let a yogi be constantly concentrating in the Atman. Such a person who is free from all cravings and is concentrated in the Atman alone is regarded to be in harmony. The one who has cognized oneself as a buddhi, who has associated oneself with the Atman, who is devoted only to the Lord and takes refuge in him, such one purified by salvational wisdom, goes to liberation. Brightly aspiring yogis cognize not only the soul, but also the Atman in themselves. But the unwise do not find the Atman. When a yogi takes the indriyas off the earthly objects like a tortoise withdraws its limbs and head into its shell, then the yogi attains the true understanding. Observing, supporting, all receiving, the highest ruler, also the divine Atman. This is how one calls the Supreme Spirit in this body. The one who sees that all actions are realized only in Prakriti, and that the Atman remains in calm, such one truly sees the eternal and unbound by Prakriti divine Atman, though residing in bodies, does not act and cannot be influenced, as the omnipresent void does not intermix with anything because of its subtlety, so the Atman residing in bodies intermixes with nothing. The one who sees manifestations of the Atman in everything, and who has cognized through this the sameness of everything, both the pleasant and the unpleasant, such one is regarded as a perfect yogi. Fix your mind on me, love me, sacrifice to me, revere me. To me will you finally come, being consumed by the Atman, if you have me as your highest purpose. In relation to this subject, it is important to stress the importance of the work on the development of the spiritual heart, because higher spiritual achievements are not possible without this. It is inside the developed spiritual heart that the spiritual seeker can find the Atman, and then cognize Paramatman, cognize Ishvara the Creator. Krishna said the following about this: I am the Atman that resides in the hearts of all beings. I reside in the hearts of all. Ishvara resides in the hearts of all beings. How one can open and then develop the spiritual heart is described in our books and films listed at the end of this book. Description of Brahman and cognition of the Nirvana in Brahman. I will reveal to you what has to be known, and, having been known, brings one to immortality. This is Supreme Brahman, who has no origin, and is beyond the limits of existence and non-existence of beings. His hands, feet, eyes, heads, mouths are everywhere. Omniscient, he abides in the world, embracing everything. He has no organs of perception, yet he perceives everything, having no attachment to anything, yet sustaining all beings, free from the three gunas and using the gunas, inside and outside all beings, staying in calm and yet acting, elusive in his subtlety, being always near, and yet at the unspeakable distance, such is imperishable he. Not divided among beings, and yet existing separately in everyone, he is cognized as the helper of all. He embraces all beings with himself, and guides them in their development. About him, about the light of all lights, it is said that he is beyond the darkness. He is wisdom, the purpose of every wisdom, cognized by wisdom, residing in the hearts of all. The one who serves me with steadfast love, such one, having freed oneself from the three gunas, deserves to become Brahman. How the one who has attained perfection comes to Brahman, to the highest state of wisdom. Hear from me in brief. The one who is happy within, who finds joy not in the outer, who is illuminated by love within, such a yogi is capable of cognizing the essence of Brahman and attaining the nirvana in Brahman. The nirvana in Brahman is attained by those rishis who have gotten rid of vices, become free from duality, cognized the Atman, and dedicated themselves to the good of all. Free from worldly attractions and anger, dedicated to spiritual pursuits, having subdued the mind and cognized the Atman, they attain the nirvana in Brahman. The highest happiness awaits a yogi who has become sinless and alike to Brahman. Yogis who have brought themselves into harmony and gotten rid of vices experience easily the unlimited bliss of contact with Brahman. The one who has completely purified oneself as a consciousness, who has overcome oneself by steadfastness, who has detached from all the outer and cast off passion and enmity, who lives in solitude, who is abstinent and has subdued one's speech, body and mind, who is constantly in meditation and is passionless, devoid of egoism, violence, arrogance, sexual passion, anger, and greed, and who is imbued with peace and selflessness, such one deserves to become Brahman. Being the calm, pure consciousness, the one who has cognized Brahman and established oneself in Brahman neither rejoices receiving that which is pleasant, nor grieves receiving that which is unpleasant. The one who is not attached to satisfaction of the senses by the outer things and finds joy in the Atman, such one, upon reaching unity with Brahman, partakes of the eternal bliss. Having achieved the eternity in mergence with Brahman, one attains the highest love for me. Strengthening of the consciousness. With advancement through the stages of Buddha Yoga, one's amount of the energy of the consciousness grows, and so strengthening of the consciousness, or crystallization of the consciousness, takes place. The one who has conquered the Indriyas, renounced attractions and distractions, and established oneself in the Atman, attains the inner purity. When the inner purity is attained, all sorrows disappear, and the consciousness strengthens. However, this achievement can be lost. The reason of a person who yields to the pressure of passions gets carried away like a ship carried away by the storm. Because of anger, the perception gets completely distorted. The distortion of perception causes the loss of memory about one's own achievements. And the loss of memory leads the loss of the energy of the consciousness. By losing the energy of the consciousness, man degrades. Description of Ishvara. I am the source of everything, everything originates from me. Having understood this, the wise worship me with great delight, directing their thoughts at me, devoting their lives to me, enlightening each other, always conversing about me. They are happy and content. To them always full of love, I gift Buddha Yoga, by means of which they attain me. Having enlivened the whole universe with a minute part of myself, I remain. There is no limit to my divine power. My supreme and eternal form is revealed only in yoga, in mergence with the Atman. There is nothing superior to me. I am transcendent to the perishable and even to the imperishable. By me in my unmanifest form this entire world is pervaded. All beings have roots in me, they who know everything about the eternal omnipresent ruler of the world, the one subtler than the subtlest, the foundation of everything, formless, shining like the sun behind the darkness, who think of me constantly, having no thoughts about anything else. Such steady yogis easily attain me. Only love can contemplate me in my innermost essence and merge with me. The one who does everything only for me, for whom I am the supreme aim, who loves me, who is detached, devoid of enmity, such one comes to me. Fix your thoughts on me, submerge yourself as a consciousness into me. Verily then you will live in me. And Brahman imperishable and immortal is based on me. I am the basis of the eternal Dharma and the abode of the ultimate happiness. By performing the duty and worshipping through this the one by whose will all beings come into existence and who pervades everything, man attains perfection. By love one cognizes me in my essence, who I am, and what I am in reality. Having cognized me thus in my innermost essence, one submerges into my beingness. Think always about me, love me, sacrifice yourself for my sake, seek refuge only in me, and you will come to me. The yogi who has merged with the Atman and controls the mind enters the highest nirvana and abides there in me. Cognition of the Absolute. One of the aspects of God, as we discussed above, is the Absolute, the Creator coessential with His creation. As to the practical aspect, the meditative cognition of the Creator and of the Absolute and mergence with them happen almost in parallel. About the cognition of the Absolute, Krishna said the following: "At the end of many births, the wise man comes to me. Vasudeva is everything," says the one of rare Mahatma's qualities. The knowledge that sees one indestructible being in all beings, undivided in the separate, know that such knowledge is sattvic. Arjuna saw the whole universe subdivided into many worlds, but united into one in the body of the highest deity. They who see me everywhere and see everything in me, I will never forsake them, and they will never forsake me. They established in such oneness, who worship me present in everything, such yogis live in me whatever their activity is. Mergence with Brahman, the Creator and the Absolute, is achieved through the meditative methods that allow one to enter the state of Nanai, total reciprocity, and through other methods of Buddha Yoga. At that, not only mental, but also meditative replacement of egocentrism with godcentrism takes place. By the way, the vector of attention in the Absolute is directed from the Creator to the creation. Earth, water, fire, air, akasha, mind, consciousness, also the individual I. All this is that which exists in the world of my Prakriti, 8 in total. This is my lower nature. But no, my higher nature, which is that element of life thanks to which the whole world is sustained. It is the womb of everything existing. I am the source of the manifest universe, and it disappears in me. The ultimate aim of every one of us is mergence with Him. Let us dedicate our lives to this. Quotations from the Mahabharata. From the Book of the Wives, 11th book of the Mahabharata. Even if one grieves before death, anyway one cannot change anything. The medicine for grief is to forget about it. Grief arises from contact with the undesired, from parting with the pleasant. Only unreasonable people suffer of grief. Grief is destroyed by knowledge. The one who has subjugated the Indriyas, who is not agitated with sexual passion, greed, anger, content, with worldly possessions, who is truthful, comes to steady, calm. The one who has mastered, among other things, the control over the mind becomes free from the great circle of suffering. From the Book of the Effort, 5th book of the Mahabharata, causing no harm by violence is the most important thing bringing one to happiness. The one who seeks success has to abandon 6 vices: drowsiness, sloth, fear, anger, laziness, and putting off work to a later time. The one who never looks arrogant, never speaks about others with disregard, never says rude words, even upon having lost self-control, such a person is always liked by everyone. As stars are influenced by planets, even so the inner world of man is influenced by his indriyas when they, uncontrolled, are directed to material objects. Fools offend the wise one with unjust rebukes and slander, but those who slander incur sin on themselves. On the contrary, the wise one, by forgiving the offense, becomes liberated from sins. Fools are those trying to teach the one who cannot be taught, and those talking to the one who listens to them with mistrust. Making evil by violence is the power of the wicked. Forgiveness is the power of the virtuous. Do not do to others what is disgusting to you. This is justice, in brief. Conquer anger with forgiveness, win the wicked with kindness, educate the niggardly with generosity, overcome injustice with truth. Never try to do good deeds under the influence of passion, fear, or greed. Yearning for pleasures captivates man, but then causes passion and anger in him. I regard as a Brahman the one who is capable of knowing and explaining to others the truth, who, having solved one's own problems, explains the problems of others. The one who abides in the truth and has canized Brahman is regarded as a Brahman. Brahman cannot be canized in a hurry. I call the knowledge about the unmanifest eternal. This knowledge is achieved by the consciousnesses of those who keep the vow of apprenticeship. The body is created by two, father and mother, yet the true birth liberates one from old age and gives immortality. The disciple has to aspire to studying with diligence and never become angry or arrogant. People with their deeds in the material worlds attain limited worlds. The one who cognizes Brahman attains everything through this, and there is no other way to ultimate salvation. The main celestial haven is found not on the earth, nor in the airspace, nor in the ocean. It is neither in the stars, nor in the lightning. Its form cannot be seen in the clouds. One can behold it neither in the wind, nor among the gods, nor in the moon, nor in the sun. It cannot be found in hymns, sacrificial sayings, incantations, or chanting. It is neither in melodies, nor in great vows. It is beyond darkness. It is subtler than the subtlest and greater than mountains. It is the unshakable foundation, immortality, the primordial essence of the universe. It is the shining light, the highest glory. This highest and divine can be seen only by yogis. From it originates Brahman, and thanks to it Brahman grows, and no one can see it with the physical eyes. Yet the one who cognizes it with the aspiring heart and mind becomes immortal. I am the Father and Mother, and the Son. I am the essence of everything that was, is, and will be. Subtler than the subtlest, benevolent I am awake in all beings. And that's not all. Our experts and regular viewers respond to all comments. Also check if you forgot to subscribe and set your bell to receive notifications about new audiobooks and other useful self-development materials that we release regularly. Join in the discussions, don't forget to give likes and, if possible and inspired, support the development of the channel financially. All useful links will be in the description and the first attached comment. Goodness, love and wisdom to all. And now move on to watch the next part of the video at the links below, or choose something from the playlists of the channel and those you see on the screen.